Welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot extraordinaire, and your local witch next door. And today I'm talking about the Queen of Pentacles. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you love the show, the best way to support it is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. Other ways to support me are to join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family. If you're local to the greater Puget Sound area, you can join me at in-person events. Our next one's coming up on Monday, May 12th. The Sumner Library for a potluck and tarot crafting. If you're interested in my free PDF for the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you at the beginning of this year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. And another way to work with me is that I'm a sex and relationships therapist, seeing clients virtually all over Washington State. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients who might be struggling with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex. If you're interested in working with me, you can go to my website, CamilleSaunders.com, to book a free 20-minute consultation to see if we're a good fit to work together. And if you're looking for any of the links for any of these offers, you can look in the show notes or on my website, CamilleSaunders.com/everydaytarot, for all of those links and also the images of the cards I pull on each episode. So welcome to Season 7. We're getting close to the end here. In this season, we're talking all about the Suit of Pentacles, going through one card per episode. If you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, you can check those out. Season 1 was all about tarot basics. Seasons 2 and 3, I went through the major arcana cards and an overview of the 4 suits. Season 4, I talked about tarot in pop culture. Season 5 was all about common tarot spreads. And Season 6 was about the Suit of Wands. Here we are in Season 7 now. I'm talking all about the Suit of Pentacles, and we're on our second to last episode of this season. If you want to hear an episode dedicated to an overview of the Suit of Pentacles, you can check out Season 3, Episode 13, or if you're looking for the number, it should be Episode 39. Today I'm talking all about the Queen of Pentacles. So some images or symbols associated with this card are groundedness, like nature elements, protectiveness, caring, nurturing, and then also, again, that earth queen energy, very grounded, very, again, a lot of nature sort of symbols, maybe some like that are more fertility or caring for small creatures or other folks. And yeah, I'm going to look at some of the Queen of Pentacles cards that I have from various decks. So in the Anima Mundi Tarot deck by Megan Weiler-London, the Queen of Pentacles is depicted as a doe, so a deer, a female deer. And there's also a little bunny rabbit in the corner of this image. The deer is sort of front and center in the card. And then there's sort of some bushes. They're in a woodland area, but maybe going out into a field. There's like a clearing. And there is this sort of like they're standing still. They're looking straight on. Like they look very alert and in tune with what's going on. Again, there's sort of like various bushes or wildflowers and trees around them. So very much in nature, right? They're in that setting. They're in this abundance. They're in this connectedness to the earth as well. And then in this card, there's a pentacle at the top of it for the pentacle suit. In the Therapist Who Tarot deck, prompts by Drea Bloom and art done by Rebecca Bloom, they depict the pentacles as spirals in this deck. I believe spirals were how pentacles were first depicted, as spirals occur in nature. And she is the Queen of Spirals here, and it says she is down to earth. I really like the image on this one. So it's sort of like you see like a woman's face or someone's face. And then there is this sort of like somewhat you see like a body, but it's very like curved and sort of almost like floating. And there's a spiral in the middle of her chest, which again is showing that very like groundedness, right? She is nature. She is in tune with nature. And then there's sort of like all the colors of the rainbow are like within her. And again, she almost looks like what's depicted as like one of the first artifacts that we have of gods or goddesses, which is the Venus of Willendorf. She's that small, like very curvy statue that kind of looks like a person. She has this sort of like braided either like hair or like crown around her head. And then you don't really see like facial depiction at all. She's just sort of like a blank face and then this just very curvy um, feature or character or sort of again goddess that we know of. She's quite small. I've seen it in real life. As an anthropology nerd, I was very excited. I think I saw it when I was in Austria. I lived in Vienna and studied abroad there for a semester, and they have the statue there at their Natural History Museum. It's quite small. It could like fit in your hand. And so it's just one of the first depictions. And this image just it makes me think of that because you see this sort of figure, but instead of like having arms out or legs splayed, like in the Leonardo da Vinci depiction of like human anatomy, there is this sort of like the arms are close to the body and the legs are close in, like almost as if you were sitting down or laying or comfortable, where it's sort of like the outline of a body, but not so much like these individualized anatomical pieces, which I really like. And like I said, she sort of has all the colors of the rainbow within her. And there is this sort of like abstract, but also spiral going on. And this deck does not have a tarot deck guidebook with it, but it does have questions on the back. And it says, what is your superpower? How is it also your kryptonite? So like strengths and weaknesses. What is it time to create in your life? And what are you most proud of? So again, getting really right down to earth about the ways that we are, how our strengths, that sort of the shadow side, or right, these sort of our strengths that sometimes, right, if we take them too far, can sometimes become our weaknesses in that sense. And then also, yeah, just thinking about like, what are you proud of? What have you created? Which again, pentacles are all about things in the material realm. So like physical things, tangible things, right? Creations of art that you can hold in your hand, like the Venus of Willendorf, as I was talking about earlier. And then in the last tarot deck I'm looking at right now, the Queen of Pentacles is in the Sassarabito tarot deck by Stasia Burrington. And there's again like sort of a woman. She's got her hair down. She has like pentacles that almost look like they're tattooed on her like shoulders or almost like bicep area. She's like cradling two rabbits. So again, I think rabbits are often depicting that like fertility or nurturing or caring. And then again, she's sort of surrounded by nature, but also like is clearly like in nature. She has these sort of branches or bushes that are kind of like all wrapped around her. She looks very serene. She's also like not wearing any clothes. So she's like, right, she's very blending in. She's holding these soft rabbits. Her hair is like flowing in this way. I just get this very like, yeah, I'm here, right? Like I'm caring for things, but I'm also myself. And I'm also very grounded in nature with these aspects. I was going to look in the Anima Mundi deck to see what they said about the queen here. It's a white-tailed deer. It says female. The Queen of Pentacles is a mother figure who works hard to create a stable, comfortable place for her family. This could either be you or someone in your life who you look up to. Be compassionate, balanced, and down to earth to others as well as yourself. So upright, it's about kind-heartedness, charity, a motherly figure, caring, homely, and security. And reversed, it is more of like possessiveness, self-neglect, smothering, or work-life imbalance, which is kind of what the Therapist Who Tarot prompts I was thinking about were sort of about, right? Of sort of like what's the flip side of your personal strengths. Right, maybe it's that you're really detail oriented. That's a great strength of yours, right? You can really see all those fine details. But then maybe it's a lot harder to like zoom out or sort of see a broad scope or explain broadly in scope to someone that you get really right thinking about those details there, for example. All right, so let's get into some of my books that talk about the cards. So in the Library of Esoterica, Tarot book by Toshin, they talk about that the Queen of Pentacles is nurturing and replenishment and generosity. The Queen of Pentacles reminds us to connect with our feminine intellect as well as creativity and nature. So again, a lot of those same symbols like creativity, creation of things in the tangible world, like I said, and also nature. In the Tarot and Astrology book by Corinne Kenner, they talk about that the Queen of Pentacles is associated with Capricorn, and they embody the fertile combination of a water with earthly resources of the Pentacles cards. She's a patient and intractable woman. She has no hurried sense of time or pressure to conform. She's planted herself firmly in a granite garden, and that is where she'll bloom. She represents the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn, which makes her a savvy businesswoman who can cultivate a wide range of resources for her people. She's a leader and a decision maker. She's earthy and authoritative, disciplined and cautious. She believes in the values and structures of tradition. Being patient and enduring also gives her time to think. Over the years, she's developed a dry sense of humor that catches many people by surprise. Like most Capricorns, she's an old soul who grows younger and more lighthearted with time. The Queen of Pentacles is the guardian of Earth, and she understands the importance of safeguarding and protecting the physical world for future generations. We could use more of that energy. Even so, she's not a believer in unproven theories or rash environmentalism. She knows that Earth has resources most people can't imagine, and that the planet will outlive its population. Like her major arcana counterpart, the devilish Dark Lord, she also understands the pleasures of the flesh and the temptations of earthly existence. She's aware of her status and position. She leads by firm and resolute example, holding fast to her values and beliefs. Let's see, it says in the natural horoscope, her primary domain is the 10th house of career and social status, which again is kind of going back to the businesswoman aspect, the resources, right? Being this great authority and leader, decision maker. Again, when we think of pentacles, right, is things in the physical realm, like being able to be very grounded in your decisions, right? Looking at the data they talk about, right? Not using unproven theories. So you're not just going off of a whim, right? You're looking at, okay, what do people actually need? Okay, how am I going to fill that need? And that she's authoritative, but also, right, is very, again, grounded in reality, practicality. She's patient, right? She doesn't just jump into things without thinking about them, but she's very thoughtful in that sense. In the Fearless Tarot book by Elia Adam, they talk about that the Queen of Pentacles is all about that everything is growing in its perfect time. She represents success gained after patient effort. Everything growing in her garden was guided by her skilled hands. In the Rider-Waite-Smith depiction, the queen is calmly sitting. She's on a throne admiring her coin. Even though not everything in her garden is in full bloom yet, she finds contentment in the moment. She's present. And that's interesting because I am in spring here in May of 2025 recording this. And definitely lots of things are in bloom, but right for me, still in the Northern Hemisphere, in a rainy, slightly darker place, like we're still in kind of early spring for our plants here. Things are starting, we're getting rain and a lot of sunshine, so things are growing very quickly. But it also is not, like, by no means is it the height of the garden or being in full bloom. That will still take probably 3 months from now for me here. So this asks, are you content with your life just as it is right now? Do you fret about achieving tangible success? And does your fear and anxiety rob you of enjoying your life right now? Right? Are you getting caught up in what could be, or the fear of what could be in the worst way, and not being able to enjoy the current things? says the Queen of Pentacles is seated on a sturdy throne decorated with the emblem of Capricorn, the astrological goat. The sign of Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, also known as Father Time. The Queen of Pentacles knows how to use time and patience to achieve her ultimate success. She also has a great sense of timing. She wisely keeps an eye on the long game. In the foreground of the card, often in the bottom right-hand corner, is the Queen's pet rabbit. Rabbits symbolize nervous energy. This reminds us that we must still act towards our dreams even when we are afraid. Rabbits can also symbolize fertility, like the Easter bunny and the budding of spring. Rabbits were believed to bring good luck and swift fortune. The rabbit can symbolize the Queen's nervous energy, and yet the Queen of Pentacles doesn't drive the rabbit out of her garden. Again, a lot of people would see rabbits as pests in the garden. They do eat things that are low to the ground at least. But it says the Queen knows that nervous energy can be useful when properly channeled to get something done. Just now, however, the Queen is ignoring the fears of her rabbit and instead focusing on the coin in her lap. The Queen is not letting her anxieties distract her from what she is trying to manifest. She also reminds you to ground yourself in the pleasures of the physical world. Acknowledge the warmth of your home, the flavors of the food you're eating, the green spirits calling from the trees, and the smell of raindrops misting outside. Experiencing life's beauty with all of your senses. Be like the Queen of Pentacles and enjoy what you have while still holding the space for what is currently manifesting. She assures you that your efforts are ripening and blossoming in the perfect timing. She's confident that you will know when the right time is to act. For now, relax in your garden. Be content. The Queen of Pentacles promises financial success and security despite your greatest worries. Well, that's lovely to hear. All right. So let's dive in and see what the cards have to say today on this topic. I'm going to be pulling cards from the Citadel, a fantasy oracle by Fen Inkwright. This is a newer deck to me still, and I'm getting to know it. So I've been pulling from it a lot recently, and I'm going to be thinking about, how can we have patience and be content with what we currently have, even when our dreams are very big and we want to create things faster, right? Or maybe see things happening in our finances, in the material world, in our art and creation that we're having a hard time waiting for. I want this card to tell us a bit about, how do we find contentment in the moment? How do we embrace the day to day? How do we embrace where we're currently at? What we find pleasure in? How do we relax in the garden? Literally and metaphorically. Because I'm definitely in a season of literally relaxing in my garden, and in some ways it feels very foreign. All right, so let's see what card I pull here. One more shuffle. All right. I pulled the Brawler upright, lack of empathy and confrontation. Interesting. This does not make sense to me immediately. So let's look in the book, see what they have to say. The Brawler is the last sort of suit here. This deck is an oracle deck, so it's not tarot. It doesn't have the traditional tarot structure, but it does sort of have suits. So the Brawler is part of the troop suit, like a troop of a ragtag bunch comprising people who've moved into the Citadel from distant lands. These are travelers, dreamers, actors, and creatives without home or final destination. These wanderers are prone to a whimsical nature and adapt quickly to new situations. However, they often lack a sense of true identity, tending to reinvent themselves with every new location. All right, so the Brawler says, night falls thick and dark across the streets, but not all are sleeping. The doors of a music hall pour light and warmth into the courtyard, and revelers tumble drunk and rowdy after them. A spilled drink, a sharp word, and a fight breaks out, and the Brawler is once again standing with fists raised, ready to fight their corner. Set on showing the whole world that they don't care what people think of them, the Brawler invites confrontations wherever they go. Quick with a brash retort and ready fists, their bull-headed manner makes only enemies and never friends. You won't be able to move forward until a current conflict is resolved. Whether you're in the right or not, take a moment to step back and consider things from an alternate point of view. Entering a situation with your fists raised won't resolve things. Exercise a little empathy and plan out a way to address the matter on neutral ground. Accept this chance to improve yourself without carrying forward any malice towards others. Interesting. So hopefully that makes sense to you or something comes to mind there. I'm sort of thinking, I don't have something immediately that comes to mind, but it's interesting to think about the brawler in relation to pentacles, because again, brawling, right, which is fighting, like the image on the card is like hands that are being wrapped like boxers do or something, to make sure they don't break their hand or like skin breaks open as much, where, right, brawling or physically fighting is a very physical relationship to the Pentacles card, right? It's very grounded. It is very earthy. It is getting blood on your hands, right? Sometimes literally. Um, and so it sounds like there's a conflict in our lives. Maybe that's with a person, or maybe that's with an idea or something we're working on. And it's saying, right, don't just go in with maybe like stubbornness or with your mind set, but try to have empathy for the other side, right? Maybe plan a way to meet in the middle in some way. And also that, right, we're going to work on ourselves so that we're not carrying forward any of that sort of resentment towards other people, right? Sometimes maybe that's direct communication, or sometimes that might be stepping back from a situation, right? Instead of trying to argue your point, saying like, sure, okay, I see that that matters to you, right? Right now, maybe this is not the most important thing to me. And I don't need to engage in that right now. Because, right, it does remind us that, like, when we go in with that sort of, again, sort of the shadow side of earth signs, which is like stubbornness, when we go into situations with a bull-headed manner, again, Taurus is depicted as the bull, Capricorn has the goat, which again, like, really like to fight with their heads in this sort of stubborn way, like that. Sometimes when you go into situations like that, people will meet you at that place, which just means that they're going to fight you. And sometimes maybe that sounds good and that's what you want. But this is saying for whatever is going on in your life right now, that that's not the way that we need to approach this particular thing. It sounds like perhaps we need to, right, have some empathy, but also like be strategic, right? Is this the hill you want to die on, as the phrase goes? And that there might be some, yeah, confrontation that's coming up, and that maybe, right, examining our own stuff or thinking about that or how we show up is more important than putting someone else down or trying to, defend ourselves against them because we're clearly in the right. As I often say in couple sessions, we're all right. We all have our own, right, we all have our own stuff. We all have our own sides to things, and that doesn't, I'm not going to go into a couples therapy session telling someone who is right or not either. Sometimes people want that, and I remind them that's not really how it goes. That's not really how therapy works. And a lot of arguments, if we're coming in it from a perspective of who's going to be right or not, right, it means someone has to be wrong. And it's just like not the most important thing, in my opinion, to focus on in relationships is who is right or who is wrong. Again, if we see it of like, how can the other person come from this point of view? Can I have empathy for them? Do I understand where they're coming from in their side of things? Do I understand what was normalized to them or what's really important to them? And actually, maybe it's not that important to me right now. All right. Well, I'll stop there for now. Links for the tarot decks will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.